Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. We are moving on with our case study presentations on fleet connectivity and management. This session is about key expectations around connected data based on a fleet manager's experience. Ms. Aleksandra Jackowska, Strategic Sourcing Manager at PPG Industries, is here to join us. She will provide insights about the way an international company utilizes connected technology and the expectations regarding the collection and analysis of connected data. If you have any questions for Aleksandra, please don't forget to share them via chat box. Hello, Aleksandra. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Hello. Thank you for a nice introduction.
Thank you. So if you are ready, you can go on with your presentation. And then
I'm ready. I'm sharing my screen. Can you confirm you can see this?
Yes, I can see your slides now.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really glad for the opportunity. So let me start with a short introduction. So right now I'm working for PPG and I'm responsible for fleet travel and meetings and events in EMEA region, sometimes going outside for more global projects. I have over 15 years experience in strategic sourcing and project management gained in Philips Electronics and Tate & Lyle. I always try to move my programs to more mature level. That's why innovation is a key for me, and optimization of the programs is absolutely important. I'm based in Łódź in Poland, and I have diplomas from sociology and for the balance from logistics. Right. Let me introduce my company. So PPG is really traditional old company with almost 140 years of history. It is headquartered in Pittsburgh, so American company, but with operations in over 70 countries. We produce paint. So if you take a look around yourself, you see the objects, and the objects, some of the objects are moving, some objects are not moving, are stable. But whatever the object is, most likely it's covered by PPG paint. So for this audience specifically, I think a pretty important thing is that we also paint cars, and we also produce paint to repair the cars. So we operate in refinish and automotive businesses. All right, so today I was invited to share best experience from PPG. So I will tell you about one project we realized in PPG EMEA, where actually we recalculated our leasing contracts and delivered some savings on this. Let me start with a short description of EMEA PPG Fleet. So basically, EMEA represents the biggest part of overall PPG fleet, and it's around 51% of overall fleet. I wasn't allowed by legal to say exactly the number of vehicles, but we are considered as mid-size, closer to big customer to OEMs. So we have a couple of thousand of cars, and we are truly present in 34 countries in EMEA only, meaning again, biggest portion of overall fleet for PPG. We work with one EMEA policy. However, there are some country regulations in place. We also introduced preferred OEMs for two types of the drivers. So first portion is dedicated for volume brand, let's name it job needed cars, and it's the compliance over here is at the level of 47%. And we have also premium brands, so these cars are treated as benefits to the employees, and the coverage over here is 34%. So in total, we have a pretty nice compliance level to preferred OEMs, around 80%. There is this small other portion which basically is caused by the exceptions, which always have to be approved by the business. These are safety reasons, but also some non-availability of certain models in certain countries. 34 countries, sometimes it's very difficult even for global OEM to have full coverage. We operate via operational leasing, so we lease our cars and we add extra services to this. In some countries, we unbundle those services depending on the situation. We have also EMEA steering committee in place, and these guys are actually senior directors, and they help to mandate any initiatives, and they approve the strategy for fleet, and they really drive the innovation moving forward. PPG grows by acquisition, meaning every year we purchase a couple of new companies. Just to give you an example, this year we purchased so far 6 new companies, including Tikurila, so this is well-known Finnish paint company. So that means our fleet program is in constant move. Even we have some background and a baseline settled, we add constantly new programs. So we have to align with new acquisitions. We have to align on the policy because we are differing not only in OEMs or models of managing the cars. Sometimes we have to really switch the overall owning the car to leasing model, etc. So there are lots of challenges ahead us. So these 4 main pillars are really baseline for our strategy. As I mentioned, we have this one document policy where we have general conditions underpin. So we look, of course, at the safety, sustainability in this general document, but also OEMs are also mentioned there, as well as contract conditions such as contract duration, mileage, CO2 emissions, etc. This document is approved by HR, and I think it's important to mention because any change to this needs to be further approved by HR as well. And we have country specifics where the budgets are defined and who is really entitled to receive the car, etc. So this is regulated in a country, especially when the legislation differ, looking at overall picture. I mentioned about car manufacturers, so we have really a framework EMEA agreements, and for the exceptions, we allow them, but it's really it needs to be really approved by senior manager. We have operational leasing in place, meaning we use operational model with leasing companies. So we divide the cost into 2 pieces. First is finance cost. So starting price of the vehicle, then we of course add depreciation and any other interest rates from leasing company or already discounts from OEMs. But we also operate via multi-bids, meaning we have framework agreements with our leasing companies. But basically, every time we contract the car, we go to at least 3 different leasing companies and we select the best offer. We have also operational part of this. Sometimes it covers fuel, insurance, service maintenance, repair, and other fees. And I say sometimes because we hardly are working on EMEA projects, which aim to really sometimes unbundle this or keep it on our leasing, or keep it in our leasing cost. How we manage our fleet. So that also differ per country. I would say in minority of the countries, but in bigger spend, so covering 75% of the spend, we manage our fleet via outsourced solutions, so fleet management company. And those guys are having expertise, they have connections, they know how to drive innovation on a very regional level, at once do big bang with all the projects. But in many countries, we have still this in-house solution where we We are having our own employee who drives the changes and manages fleet. Yeah, so sometimes it's really dedicated fleet manager, and sometimes someone who is doing this on the top because we just have few cars in certain countries. So what brought us really to the project of fleet recalculations? First of all, pandemic impact, and I will say it in short, everyone is aware how COVID-19 influenced our lives. But basically, we started changing in a way how we work. So our organization started introducing flexible working hours arrangements, hybrid models. Employees are coming less and less to work, so they drive less. We also change our mentality a little bit, at least this is from our observation. People started value more work-life balance and also spend more time at home. Our sales force also came up with creative solutions responding to this pandemic effect. So they created so-called moon vans, so the van where they put all the selling machine, and they started going to our customers with one van instead of driving, making a standard traditional way of selling products. So that was pretty important. And I've heard here during this conference a couple of times that the data is key, and data is actually the most important because it really shows us that our environment is changing. So we observe closely our contracted mileage versus our actual mileage. That gave us kind of indication that we should do something about this, because there were serious discrepancies, especially in some countries, between what was contracted and what we're actually using. And as you probably are aware, there were some supply chain issues. So because of pandemic also, OEMs were having troubles in delivering on times models. Some models were put on hold completely, so they didn't proceed with this at all. There are some other issues like semiconductors right now. So there are delays in delivering cars. So basically, our drivers would have to wait anyway for new cars. So we consider also that extending contracts is something to be considered in terms of achieving savings, decreasing the leasing cost, because our drivers would have to wait anyway for the car exchange. So about the project, so the main goal of the project was to lower leasing rate, and by that achieve some savings. And to lower leasing rate, we had like three scenarios. We could reduce the mileage. We could extend the contract for individual car, or we could do both in the same time. So every single contract had to be approached individually and reviewed what is actually possible. So we involved in the project fleet management companies for the countries which are in scope. We use also internal resources, and leasing companies were absolutely required in this process because they came back to us with recalculations. How we did it? Where appropriate and possible, we use telematics, but that wasn't, that wasn't the solution for every single country. To be honest, we don't have it everywhere. We also check with fuel card providers. And in the end, what was the most problematic and challenging, we had to also manually gather some data from the drivers directly or from fleet managers, different processes in place, really time-consuming, energy-consuming process. The timing of the project really varied from 2 to 4 months, again, depending on the country, depending on the fleet management model in place. We looked individually at this really. So what was the target? We targeted majority of countries in Europe. We looked at the cars which were appropriate for this project. So we didn't look at the completely new cars because it would be pointless to recalculate these contracts. We also looked at the cars which were appropriate to extend this contract. So not every single car really qualified to this project. All right, so here are the results of the project. Actually, we achieved the results in two ways. First, we received retro credits from leasing companies. And as a second sort of way, we achieved future reductions, meaning lowering leasing rate moving forward. We're able to calculate the savings for the upcoming 12 months, but then it's also nice to show overall savings. Yeah, the situation really differ per country. As I mentioned, some countries really did it before on regular basis, so the results weren't so impressive. But the other countries, we found a lot of opportunities and were able to identify pretty nice savings over there. Just put here alphabetical order, but really there are some other countries to join this list. If you look at the percentage, you can just compare to your fleet spend and see, if it's like really attractive for you or not. I think it's really important to verify what is contracted versus the reality, and this reality changed so much so quickly. That we were able really to gain some benefits out of this, and this is what we really did. So overall cash savings was 1.77% on annual spend, and trust me, for us in PPG, that number was pretty impressive for our management. It was immediate savings, so we could start realizing the savings from the very next month when we identified the savings. So something really nice, yeah. Also looking at this data, we had the opportunity to observe how the driving behaviors change, and that really contribute to our future strategic programs like changing to electric vehicles, etc. Because we see how much we are driving, what can be improved, what should be changed immediately. So going really to the last slide of this project, we saw some challenges throughout the project duration, and we also defined future improvements. So we noticed that gathering actual mileage is horrible process, and I was glad to see so many telematics companies over here where I already found the solutions for the future, and we have this in place in a couple of countries. We also work on other solutions with other providers, but these external providers are key to help us with our data, and the data is absolutely critical to move with this project. Collecting the information from the drivers, it was a nightmare. So, but sometimes it was really necessary for the countries where we didn't have any other solutions. So, making some automation behind this process would really improve it in the future. Also, I have to admit that fleet management company really help us in the countries where they operate in driving this project, where we had these individuals from PPG. It was really challenging to manage the project, not because they were not willing to cooperate, absolutely not. But from my perspective, going to every single individual and coordinate this project and every time communicate the same was a bit time consuming. So just from experience, one coordinator of the project is really something what I would like to have in the future for this kind of activities. I mentioned leasing companies, so they were great help in the process, but every leasing company also approached this process differently. So they have their own criterions, how to recalculate the leasing rates, and they were coming up to us with various propositions based on various elements, and sometimes we had to come back to them and just correct and say, actually we didn't want that, we would like to rather have this or that. So having upfront this and just manage leasing companies in the same way, so they would come back to us with the same methodology, that would be really helpful moving forward. And also approval process was different depending again on the country. I mentioned how many business units PPG has. So depending on the product we paint, we have different business units. So we have different structures, different organizations in place. And moreover, we operate in 34 countries. So this is massive complexity. So every time we organize such a project, we have to go through approval process. Ideally, if we go through steering committee, I mentioned in the beginning, and we communicate some changes top down, but sometimes we have to approach really bottom up. So requesting every time for approval is a bit challenging, again, time consuming, not always successful. But I think in the end, we end up with pretty nice savings. We reacted to changing reality. I think it took us a bit more time than if we were like on one standardized automated solution. But that also reflects PPG culture, how complex we are. We grow by acquisition, and sometimes we just need to use different ways to achieve our results. Okay, I guess that's it from my side.
Thank you, Aleksandra. It was a real nice presentation.
Yeah.
And I have some questions for you.
All right.
So you mentioned several times the importance of data. So how exactly the data helps you to see the complexity of the environment that you operate in, and how you use the data to overcome these challenges?
So the data is a key because you can think, you can really correct the situation, but sometimes you just go by intuition. And with the data, you can really prove it. Yeah. So if there is any issue, you can go to top management and show the data and inform them, okay, this is the problem we are having here. If we repair this or that piece, then we'll grow in that or that space. Is pretty important. But having complexity of PPG, I think it's a real challenge for us to have it on consolidated level, on EMEA level, and read them in the same way. So interpret the data. So for us, it's a key. And right now, we are working on the project where we'll be introducing one reporting system across whole globe. So not only EMEA. We'll be working actually with external provider to really feed the data in the same way and have it available in one moment. So I think that will give us opportunity to drive so many synergies between the regions, but also drive so many improvements. We can only benefit from having this solution in the future. Right now, consolidation is time consuming and it's not always effective. So data is a key to properly manage fleet and also have right control in place.
So you gave details about the project that you executed. And if you look at your projects again, what would you do differently and why?
Well, that's really a difficult question. As I mentioned, we had many countries and they really operate via different ways. So first of all, I think getting top-down mandate for the project is a key. We did it partially. for a couple of countries, but with other countries we struggled. So I think getting necessary endorsement for the project is a key, supported by the data, which is the second pretty important element. So if I have to say what I would do differently, probably I would ask support to have more consolidated approach. So just really like we had fleet management company supporting us in 11 countries. I think this piece was much more successful than this other piece where we had individual countries with individual fleet managers, and we have to approach country by country by country. I would really consolidate and leverage with this, and I would go with top-down mandate for the project.
Okay, so you also mentioned the difficulty of gathering data, especially from drivers. So what are the main challenges you are currently facing in data gathering, and what are you going to do to overcome these challenges in this process?
So there are a couple of proposals in place. I think automation is the future, and I would rather rely on softwares to gather the data than individual input, because we are all human beings and sometimes we are making mistakes. So it's important to have reliable data. And so we'll be putting a solution in place where we will be having this actual data. But in the same time, we want our drivers to feel responsible for the mileage they are driving and to communicate back to us. So we are working also on internal solution to have this internal communication with our driver, not only on this mileage information, but also on other information, so we can freely exchange this. And gather the information also from their side to really see how the situation looks like.
Okay, something caught my eye during your presentation. So about the pandemic opportunities. So what shall the fleet managers do to take advantage of these pandemic opportunities, and exactly what they are?
First of all, I think they should not be scared of the situation. I mean, for all of us, it was a huge change, yeah. But we treated this rather as opportunity than the negative change. So if you see something is changing and really impacting your business, you should really grab it and see what are the opportunities to translate this in savings, maybe in innovation opportunity. There is momentum you can really take, and it's not only about savings. It's sometimes about going to management and saying, okay, we have this situation, but if we invest this in, there are several different projects, initiatives you can drive from this. But really, change is opportunity to innovate and to deliver additional savings. You can just really have a fresh look at your data and change your way how you manage your fleet so far, really going outside of the box, outside of your comfort zone, and see what the new opportunities are, no matter what the situation is outside there.
Mm-hmm. So you have a constant acquisition strategy, which is constantly also bringing up challenges.
Yeah, so that's why I'm just like, I'm living the change. So there is no surprise for me there. Although, of course, pandemic is not comfortable situation, I have to say to all of us. But also with this change, people are opening for change. So they are seeing that the environment is changing. So in the same time, they should change as well, and they accept this change more. So change management in this, it can be really like surprising, but change management is even easier in this kind of situation.
Mm-hmm. So what shall the fleet managers be careful about in the post-COVID fleet management?
So I would really advise to review overall fleet programs, catch up with innovation, because the environment is changing so quickly. I would really advise to focus on mobility, maybe wallets, because our drivers, our employees need more flexibility, and we notice that. The more we introduce to them, the better they will use it, but we will have to really put tools in place and tell them how to use it. I think giving like standard car as a solution is not anymore kind of well perceived by employees. We have like new generation which admire more maybe, I don't know, public transport. So we really have to look at different ways of looking at the fleet strategy. It's not only car and that's it. It's also some other pieces. And I'm true believer that fleet management company can still support us in this. It's not like, you know, some people consider this as a dangerous situation for them. I think it's opposite. It's opportunity for them, and they should look really at this as a new challenge, new opportunity to develop their business.
Thank you very much, Aleksandra.
Sure.
We reached the end of our session. So I want to thank Aleksandra for the presentation and the audience for listening. And now I want to invite you to join one of the 2 next sessions of the day. Aleksandra, again, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Have a good day.